We know that the Trump administration has been meddling in U.S. Coast Guard operations, from staffing to command and comms. And I have the general sense of a DOGE dysfunction in parts of the Coast Guard. To put it mildly, after being fully briefed on last night's Brooklyn Bridge accident, one thing is very clear. There are many more questions than answers. We know that there has been meddling by the Trump administration into the Coast Guard staffing, and now we need to know how this meddling might have impacted the events of last night.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. That is right. Your ears do not deceive you. That is Chuck Schumer blaming that Mexican Navy boat that crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge, blaming that on DOGE and Donald Trump. But yes, that's exactly what he did right there. Oh, the Coast Guard, all of it. We got DOGE cuts going on. Like, are you kidding me, my guy? Like, everything can't be Donald Trump's fault, for goodness sakes. Like, they're trying to blame all this FAA stuff on Donald Trump, as if these systems haven't been decaying for decades, for goodness sakes. They've got old systems. They need to be renewed. Just so happens Donald Trump came into office a few months ago. I guess in these people's brains, like, Donald Trump comes into the office and he emits some kind of toxic vapor that just disintegrates everything, I guess. I mean, why not everything? Because everything is Donald Trump's fault. Which, hey, look, I'm not going to lie. The buck stops with him. So if it happens under his watch, it's going to roll uphill. That's just how it is. It defies gravity. It defies physics. Defies everything, because it will roll uphill every time to Donald Trump. Every single time. That is kind of the running theme of this news article that I've got for you guys today. It's just Donald Trump's fault, by the way. Which is fascinating to me. Check this out. Some 4,500 migrants told to pay fines ranging up to $1.8 million. Now, I am loving this, folks. Like, I don't know if you guys remember a little while back. I think I covered this article. It may have been just one I read, but the Trump administration was actually offering criminal aliens $1,000 to self-deport. And I'm like, I don't know if I like that. I mean, sure, I like incentives, but that's my money. Like, sure, fractions of a fraction of a percentage is mine. Very, very small fraction. But regardless, it's still tax dollars or printed dollars, whatever it is, regardless, it comes back on us. So it's still tax dollars to give to these people when, hang on, we just need to round these people up and boot them out of the country. Or, that, or give them citizenship or something. Put them on the pathway to citizenship. If they want to integrate into our culture, then I'm fine with these people becoming citizens, just outright. But they need to do it the proper way. They must do it the proper way. But this is a fascinating article, y'all. Enough of my rambling, though, right? Check this out. Wendy Ortiz was surprised to find out she was being fined by U.S. immigration authorities for being in the country illegally, but it was the amount that truly shocked her. $1.8 million. Ortiz, 32, who earns $13 an hour in her job at a meatpacking plant in Pennsylvania, has lived in the United States for a decade after fleeing El Salvador to escape a violent ex-partner and gang threats, she said in an interview and in immigration paperwork. Her salary barely covers rent and expenses for her autistic 6-year-old U.S. citizen son. Now, what they're doing here, obviously, is they're tugging on your heartstrings. Yeah, do you think she's going to actually pay this? No. And do you think any of this is the Trump administration's fault? She's been in the country for a decade. That means she came in under Obama. None of this is Donald Trump's fault. Once again, he is just actually enforcing the laws, as we will come to find out. It's not fair, she said. Where is someone going to find that much money? I'm sorry. Like, look, seriously. If me, were to go and rack up a bunch of debt, gambling or something, and then I come to you crying about that. Oh, they're trying to make me pay off my debts. Would you really feel bad for me at all? Yeah, maybe, but would you help? Would you be like, yeah, I think we're gonna try to get that debt canceled for you? No, of course not. You're like, you'd probably think, well, you shouldn't have racked up that debt, you idiot. You did that to yourself. You knew what you were doing. That is how I feel about these people. These people just spit in our face when they came into this country. I don't care about no asylum BS. Look, El Salvador is a tropical paradise at this point. You could have went back at any point in time, but you chose not to. You chose not to. After our United States court system told you to get the F out, you chose to stay. Now you're going to pay the consequences. In the last few weeks, U.S. President Donald Trump has started to operationalize a plan to find migrants who fail to leave the U.S. after a final deportation order, issuing notices to 4,500 migrants with penalties totaling more than $500 million, a senior Trump official said, requesting anonymity to share internal figures. Reuters spoke with 8 immigration lawyers around the country who said their clients had been fined from several $1,000s to just over $1.8 million. The recipients of the notices were informed that they had 30 days to contest in writing, under oath, and with evidence as to why the penalty should not be imposed. So get this, folks. The Trump administration is merciful. You can go to a court and then plead your case as to why you shouldn't have to pay that. Maybe you didn't have a ride. Maybe you're up, working a job at a meatpacking facility in Pennsylvania, and you just couldn't get to immigration court because your 6-year-old autistic son, has issues or whatever, and you didn't have no money. Why don't you go and plead your case? Tell those people, I want to become a full-fledged citizen. Get your green card. Get a visa. The Trump administration is merciful. But you know what? You had 10 years to do this, and you didn't do it. You're still in the country illegally. My patience is running short at this point. Put it that way. The steep fines are part of Trump's aggressive push to get immigrants in the U.S. illegally to leave the country voluntarily or self-deport. The Trump administration plan, details of which were first reported by Reuters in April, including levying fines of $998 per day for migrants who fail to leave the U.S. after a deportation order. So, once again, this is the court system telling these people to, GTFO. Just outright. GTFO. And they don't do it. The administration planned to issue fines retroactively for up to 5 years, Reuters reported. Under that framework, the maximum would be $1.8 million. The government would then consider seizing the property of immigrants who could not pay. It remains unclear exactly how the Trump administration would collect the fines and seize property. I don't know, just like any other company or court would seize property or levy fines against somebody. That's how, corporate press. Instead of trying to be combative with the news article, which is what they're doing, essentially they're being combative with reality. Oh, we don't know how the Trump administration is going to do this. Well, how do any other court system seize property or garnish wages or anything like that? Like, come on, corporate press. This is all just in opposition to reality. So what they're doing here, they're trying to pull on your heartstrings. We don't know how they're going to do it. Immigration lawyers baffled, not sure why. The fines reviewed by Reuters were issued by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, but a separate agency, Customs and Border Protection, has been asked to process them and handle potential forfeitures, Reuters reported in April. So they ask a ridiculous question, then they give you the correct answer. Oh, it's going to be Customs and Border Protection actually handling the forfeitures. Oh, okay, I got you now. So what was the point of that previous little short, tiny paragraph? Once again, heartstring pulling, folks. CBP is still working out the complicated logistics to conduct seizures, a CBP official said, requesting anonymity. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security did not respond to a request for comment. DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin said in April that immigrants in the U.S. illegally should self-deport and leave the country now. Duh. The fines stem from a 1996 law that was enforced for the first time in 2018 during Trump's first term in office and target the roughly 1.4 million migrants who have been ordered deported by an immigration judge. So, once again, folks, are the laws in this country applied equally? Clearly, they're not, and they haven't been for decades. Congress passes a law, and then the administrations, Republican and Democrat alike, both decide, yeah, we're just not going to enforce this at all. Yeah, we're just not going to enforce it. You know, with all the spikes in immigration we've had over the years, this would have been a very good leverage that one of these administrations could levy against immigrants to stop them from coming in, saying, look, if you get caught, you're going to have to pay fines, probably serve time in prison, because you owe the United States up to $1.8 million. It's fascinating. But only the Trump administration decided to enforce that law. Huh. That's fascinating. The Trump administration withdrew fines of hundreds of thousands of dollars against non-migrants who sought sanctuary in churches in his first term after a legal challenge, but proceeded with smaller penalties. Joe Biden's administration dropped the fines in 2021. Imagine that. Robert Scott, a New York City-based immigration lawyer, said he was baffled when one of his clients, a low-income Mexican woman who has lived in the U.S. for 25 years, also received a $1.8 million fine. Once again, folks, you see what the corporate press does here? They turn facts into fake news constantly. They turn it into propaganda, if you will. I ain't gonna say necessarily fake news, because that's not really fake news, but it's more like propaganda, because when they go adding qualifiers in here, a low-income Mexican woman, why would they add a low income? Do they ever, this is a question you need to ask yourself when reading news articles, do they ever apply that qualifier in front of anything at all? Oh, a low-income Trump administration official said such and such. Or a low-income steel worker. No, they never do that, folks. What they're trying to do here is tell you that Donald Trump is imposing fines on broke people. But these people aren't supposed to be in the country. And it's a completely self-inflicted fine because they came into the country illegally. They circumvented the process by which you can come in for a better life if you wanted a better life, but they circumvented that process, so they don't want a better life, obviously, or they would have came in the proper way. And then they stayed here illegally, right? And then at some point, they get caught, right? And then they have to go to immigration court or whatever it may be because they've been in the country for longer than 2 years, which I don't know why that's a cutoff date. That should be there should be no cutoff date. If you're in the country illegally, expedited removal. That's what I say. But 2 years. So they're in the country more than 2 years, so they have to go to immigration court. Then a judge says, get out. Then you have the option to appeal. You appeal that. It goes to appeals court. The appeals court says, get out. And these people stay here anyway. And then they go to the corporate press and say, write me up this story. And they cry about getting fines in the millions of dollars. Are we supposed to actually care? Are those tugging of heartstrings supposed to reach me, by the way? They don't, by the way. They absolutely do not. I do not care. At first, you look at something like this and think, it's fake. He said, why would they think it's fake? That is one of our laws. This guy, this lawyer, right? Maybe he didn't know of this law. We'll give him that. But think about that for a second. You have a law that says you can fine immigrants $998 per day. And when they, for up to 5 years to get up to $1.8 million or whatever that may be, right? And then a lawyer looks at that and says, it's fake. Why? Is our Constitution fake or something? Or is it because you just don't want to believe reality? Because you've been fed propaganda from the corporate press your entire life? It's fake, he said. I've never seen a client receive anything like this. Really? You've never seen a client receive anything like that? You've never seen an immigrant get fined? Huh. Fascinating. Scott said the woman received a final deportation order in 2013, but was not aware of it at the time. You gotta love that, folks. Once again, propaganda. That's what this is, propaganda. Because what they're trying to do is spin this like, well, oh my God, she didn't know she was going to be fined all this money. But hang on just a second. Whose fault is this? Once again, we can always resort back to, yep, these people knew they were in the country illegally. Once again, catch and release. They are given a court date. They have to go to court. If they don't go to court, then sure, they're not going to know that judge said, well, they didn't show up to court. Deport these people. That's their own fault. Once again, it's a double whammy on this. Because first, you shouldn't have came into the country illegally. Second, you should have showed up to your court date. So maybe there's a chance you won't be deported. Maybe they'll let you stay. But you decided to circumvent the process again and then expect me to feel bad. Nope. Sorry. The woman filed a motion last year to reopen the removal order, which is still pending, Scott said. She hasn't been hiding, he said. What else would you call it? I find it curious that they would pick on someone like that. Oh, so it's picking on someone now. So when an administration comes into office and decides that, hang on, we're supposed to live in a free country and all these laws need to be applied equally, that's picking on somebody. Got it. Psychotic people in this country, folks. I don't know if it's random. Of course it's not random. She chose to circumvent our legal system altogether. I don't know if she's low-hanging fruit. No, she's not low-hanging fruit. The vast majority of the country voted for a mass deportation operation to take place. That's why we elected Donald Trump. What are you talking about, my guy? Low-hanging fruit. This is one of the top issues. Poll after poll after poll after poll. This is far removed from the low-hanging fruit that you're referring to, my guy. Seeking relief, the targeted. After crossing the border in 2015, Ortiz was released to pursue her asylum claim when an officer found she had a credible fear of persecution, documents show. Oh, so she was caught and released. In other words, at that point she was released, she was given a court date. She decided not to show up to that court date. That's what that tells you. That's why you should not feel sorry for any of these, not a nail one of these people. But she said she never received an immigration court hearing notice and was ordered deported after failing to show up to court in 2018. All right. Once again, folks, are all laws applied equally here? If you get a speeding ticket and you fail to show up because you lost the ticket, do you think they're going to take it easy on you just because you didn't know? And that's a U.S. citizen. Do you think we're going to give you some sort of leeway? We're going to show you mercy because you're a criminal alien? Sorry, not our fault. Ortiz's immigration lawyer requested humanitarian relief from the U.S. government on January 8th, saying she faced danger in El Salvador and that her son would not have access to services for autistic children. So which one isn't? It's not both, I can promise you that. I can promise you it's not both. She's worried about her son. Genuine concern here. But Hang on just a second, my guy, Mr. Lawyer over here. The situation in El Salvador has vastly changed from freaking 25 years ago. So, yeah, she doesn't have that issue anymore. So it's just she's worried about her son, who is, by the way, a U.S. citizen. Once again, these people are brain dead. If this is going to be an issue, why would you put a child in that position, knowing that you have a deportation order? How old, she said her son was? 6 years old, I believe. I forget. 6 years old, we'll go with that. She's been in the country for a long time. What was that? 2015. 10 years. She's been in the country for 10 years. Came in, had a child. She was ordered deported and decided to have a child. She knew she was in the country illegally. If she got caught, she would be deported. Once again, folks, this is the same thing as if I go and borrow a bunch of money from a bunch of loan sharks from the mob and go waste all that money on gambling, and then I come to you asking for some money. I mean, are you just going to be like, here you go? No, you're going to tell me, hey, you did that to yourself, my guy. Like, fix it yourself. Just a random, like, no, I'm sorry. This is just BS. Like in the corporate press, once again, this is what they do. They're propagandizing these people. They're using these immigrants as a political point, jumping off point, if you will, to make Trump look bad. That's all this is. They don't care about these people. They absolutely don't care about these people. It's insane, y'all. It really is. The petition asked for prosecutorial discretion and for the government to reopen and dismiss her case. 12 days later, Trump took office and launched his wide-ranging immigration crackdown. Rosina Stambaugh, Ortiz's attorney, said she had requested a 30-day extension and was considering ways to fight the fine in court. She is a mother of an autistic child. She has no criminal history, and they have all of her background information, Stambaugh said. I think it's absolutely insane. I just think it's absolutely insane. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, it is absolutely insane. When you come into a country, you circumvent the process by which you could come in and get legal documentation to be in the country and go to work in the country and build a better life in the country. Instead, you decide to circumvent that process and just go and do your own thing illegally, and then get mad when you get caught, and then get mad when you find out that, hang on, there's this law that's been in place for 40 years that says that the government can charge you a fine. And then you get mad about that. None of this is the government's fault. This is all this lady's fault. And this lawyer says, oh, it's insane that the government is doing this to her. Well, I'm going to interpret it in the opposite direction. I think it's insane that she thinks that she gets mercy for breaking into our country, circumventing that process, circumventing the process, to kick you out, evading Border Patrol and ICE agents for this entire freaking time, and then think we're going to show you mercy. You were given several chances to come clean and come correct and do the right thing. And every single year that went by, every day that went by, every hour that went by, every minute that went by, you decided not to go to that immigration office or to that port of entry, whatever it may be, to get a green card or a visa or whatever asylum claim. Go to court for your asylum claim. Every single day you chose not to do that was a middle finger to everybody in America. Do you think we're going to show you mercy after seeing all this evidence? No, I'm sorry. It's just not how our laws work. That's not how reality works. If somebody comes up to you and spits in your face and then asks you for $5, are you going to give them $5? Or comes up and kicks you in the shin and then says, hang on, my foot hurts from kicking you in the shin. I can't walk. Will you give me a ride home? That's a little bit more applicable to this situation. That's actually not that bad. Y'all let me know down in the comments section. Somebody comes up, kicks you in the shin, says, oh crap, they injure their foot on your shin after kicking you, and then asks you for a ride home, and then gets mad because you said no. You want to charge them gas money. I'm sorry. You can go bye-bye. Get out of here. But I think that's all I got on this, and I'm running long. I try to keep these a little bit shorter, but you know, when it comes to immigration, I can't help but run my freaking mouth. So y'all do me a favor and smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Sign up, become a member, join the channel, be an active participant. That would help me great. That would be great if y'all could do that. Sign up, become a member. There's all kind of googly got perks and whatnots and all that other stuff. So y'all do that. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.